Hello everyone, I am Devendra Veligandla from SharePointJourney.com. In this video, you will learn how to develop a client Webpart using SharePoint Framework, and also you will learn the folder structure and various types of files that will be get generated in your client Webpart. Then we will also learn how to test this Webpart using Gulp, using within the local workbench. We will also see how we could package the Webpart and what is the type of extension that will get generated. So we'll see all those things. We have set up the development environment for SharePoint Framework. So as part of that, I have installed Node.js, and this is like you just need to install, and you don't have to learn about Node.js if you want to be SharePoint developer. Then along with Node.js, we will get npm package manager. This is a package manager for JavaScript, which is similar to NuGet package manager for .NET. This is something I suggest you to learn. Because we will be using a lot of npm commands. This is again command line tool. Either I could use the Node command line tool, or I can just use Windows PowerShell to do the same thing. So I would suggest to learn about npm. Then there are other tools that we saw yesterday, like VS Code, Visual Studio Code. This would be the primary development tool that we will be using. I'm going to show how we could develop web parts and solutions using SharePoint Framework with Visual Studio as well. But VS Code is the lightweight one, and this is what we are going to use going forward to build these applications. And we have Gulp. This is the other thing that we have installed. This is to streamline the activities. So we will be using some of these commands to work with SharePoint Framework as well. And the final one is Yeoman. This is similar to our Visual Studio projects. Like when we build SharePoint solutions or any other solutions using Visual Studio, it gives predefined structure for us. We don't have to write all the files by manual approach, right? So in the same way, for SharePoint Framework also, we are using Yeoman, where it will give the scaffolding for SharePoint Framework solutions. So this is what I have done till yesterday. And today we are going to start with developing a simple application using travel request. So what I have done here is I have already created one particular web part for the travel request, and I'm going to show you how that was created. Once you have installed all these artifacts, all you have to do is you have to do yo command. Then once you run the yo command, which is going to give you different options, what are the things that you have to do when developing solutions using SharePoint Framework. Now, there were other things also got released with SharePoint Framework, which is extensions, but those things are still in preview stage. So when I enter yo, it says what you would like to do, whether you want to run the Microsoft/SharePoint generator, or you want to update your generators. So this is one thing. If you have already installed the Yeoman generator sometime back, Microsoft will be doing updates, or the team will be doing updates. So we can always get the updates by pressing this arrow key. Okay. If it was not installed, you can go ahead and install a specific generator. If I want to get help, I can say find some help, which will redirect to the Yeoman site. Or I can just come out of this. So in this case, if you are developing a new web part, I can go ahead and run Microsoft generator here. So when I say run Microsoft SharePoint, then this is going to run this command. It will say you at Microsoft/SharePoint. Then it will say, okay, what should we build? Should we build web part, or should we build extension? Extension is still in preview mode. That is something I'm going to talk about once we discuss modern team sites. For now, I'm going to go with the web part. Okay, so I'm going to press enter. and it will say what should be your web part name. One of the things that we are going to do with the travel request is I want to store the request. I already created that. So, but in addition to that, I want a separate web part for the departments. So I'm going to say a department here, and I'm going to enter. So I can add the description. This will store the departments. Okay. Then I'm going to enter. Then this will ask me whether I want to have a framework. As of now, Microsoft supports only the React and Knockout, but Angular will be coming soon. They have few issues at this point of time, but in future, I'm not sure when that will be, but definitely Angular is in line with the expectations. But for this one, I'm gonna say go with no JavaScript framework. And when I enter when I press the enter command, it is actually doing only few things, which is as of now creating package.json, forcing it, and also doing something in the config.json. But it is actually creating additional files specific to this department. Okay, so it is creating under SRC folder. We have web parts. Here we have some of the important files are department webpart.ts, and the other one was the manifest file, which stores the web part configuration, right? But there were other files that got created, and I'm going to show you what are the other files that will get created when we do a new web part. So I'm going to open this using Visual Studio Code. Okay, so this is something that was already installed, and I can see within this travel request I have a lot more files, right, or the folders. The first folder is I have config folder, then we have node modules, then we have SRC, then we have typings, and there are some configuration files in the root. So I'm going to explain each one of these folders and see what these files basically does. Okay, so the first one is config file. Okay, this will have config JSON. So in this case, like I said, I have two web parts that I have created. I have created a request web part, and now I have created the department web part. So in this way, in case of an enterprise solution, you can have multiple web parts. Okay, and each one is accepting the request webpart.js file, and the manifest will be a manifest.json file. Okay, which talks about the configuration of this particular web part. Then once we do the packaging, those files will go and sit in the distribution folder. Okay, and that will become as request.bundle.js. So let me go ahead and show you what exactly this manifest.json looks like, which is under SRC file. This is the key file, or where you're going to build the actual solution. So let's go to the request one, and here I have request webpart.ts. TS is for the TypeScript. So this is one of the things that you need to know. Let's say if you don't know TypeScript, you need to start learn about TypeScript, why the TypeScript was introduced, and what are the different things. But do let me know if you don't know about TypeScript. We can definitely talk about TypeScript going forward. Okay. So yeah, here it has the basic code that will be generated. I'm going to come back to this and explain later. So this is the one I was talking about, the webpart.manifest.json file. So here for each web part, you will have a unique ID, okay, which is a good. Then we'll have like what is the component type, whether it is a web part or whether it is an extension. Then you have a manifest version here. Then if I scroll down further, every web part will have a group, the group name. So I can put a group here. Now in this case, what I can do is I want this to be up here under, let's say you can put a client name or the application name ideally. So in this case, I would say travel request, right? That makes sense. When I'm building a travel request application, all these web parts should show under the travel request folder, which makes more sense. Then I have a few more information about this. What would be the title of those properties and the description. Then if I have any properties, okay, those properties details can be updated here. So this will be, you will read this description from the webpart.ts file. So in the webpart.ts file, you have this method here, get property pane configuration. So here you will be reading that particular description. Okay, so this one. All right.
Mm-hmm.
When we run this, you will see this in action. Okay, there are other things that we have like import, and it is importing from @Microsoft/SP core library. So these are some of the dependencies that were actually coming from Node modules folder. Okay, and when you are actually building projects, you're not going to check in this Node modules folder. Okay, you will be just using the package.json as a reference, where all the dependencies will be specified within this. So you can see here, I have dependencies. It says Microsoft/SP core library, which is 1.1.0. Okay, so that's an importance of package.json, because if I look at Node.js here, which has a lot of files and it's a huge library, right? And if you see the Microsoft, it has dependencies on other files. And if I go inside SP core, I will see, okay, let's go to the core library here. It has dependencies on the other files. Okay, so that's why instead of taking everything from the Node modules, we are going to specify what are all the dependencies that we are going to use within this solution will be configured as part of package.json file. So here I'm going to specify during the development what are the files that I need. Okay, once this is got deployed, what are the dependencies that we need? All those things will be specified in package.json. Okay, so let's say this is one thing that you need to aware. So npm is, like I said, it's a node package manager for JavaScript. Let's say, for example, now your solution wanted to use jQuery. Okay, now what you're going to do here, you will go here and say npm install jQuery. So what this does basically is it will add the reference in the Node modules folder. But the problem with that is, if I do like this, it doesn't add any entry in the package.json. Okay, so let me run this. So what's the issue then if it doesn't add any entry in the package.json? Though it add a reference in Node modules, we don't check in this file, and if there are multiple developers working on the project, and when I get the source code from the source control repository, Once I get it, I'm going to do either a simple npm install or npm update, right? That's what I'm going to do. What this basically does is it will look for all the dependencies that are specified in package.json. If this jQuery is not mentioned, okay, in the package.json, then I'm not going to get that, and there will be always errors if the other developer is using those. So it's always important, don't use this npm install jQuery. So the suggested way of adding the references is you need to use npm install whatever the library that you want to refer. You can either use save or save exact. Okay, so I'm gonna run save first, and I'll show you why I was talking about exact is also important. Okay. That's actually main importance of package.json. So if you're new to SharePoint Framework development, this is something you need to consider as well. Okay, and when you look at a few things about the references here, I see some of the references uses tilt here. So what is this tilt, and what is this 3, and what is this 9, and what is this 1? When we use these dependencies, the first number represents the major one, okay, the major version. The second one, so in case of 3.9.1, 3 is the major and 9 is the minor, and 1 is for patch. Okay, so this is how it is going to get the packages. Now if I use tilt symbol here, it is going to get up to anything below 3.9. Yeah, so it can get up to 9.9. Okay, so this is equivalent of it will be always allowed to get till this point. Okay, that's the importance of tilt. There is one more thing which I'm going to talk about, which is a caret symbol. So if I use, let's say for example, instead of tilt here, if I use caret, okay, so what that mean? This means I can use, if I say caret 3.9.1, whenever someone do npm install in their local machine, they can get up to 3.9.9. In fact, in this case, seems like both are same. That's why you don't see difference. But let's say if I have 8 here, okay, so it can still get 3.9.9. But whereas here, if I have 3.8.1, it can get up to 3.8.9. Okay, so it can get up to the major version if I use caret. If I use tilt, it can get up to the maximum, up to the minor version. So what's the issue with that particular approach? There won't be any common, I mean, these libraries are great, right? Because you can use npm to get either jQuery or Angular, all JavaScript libraries from the internet. But the problem is you will be referencing different versions of the libraries, so which is not good. And when you are releasing this solution to the client, let's say you want to release version 1.0, then you have to make sure you have the common versions in the first release. So if someone do npm install, they shouldn't get 3.9.9 at some time, 3.9.8 at some times. So you have to make sure those things doesn't happen. So how are we going to resolve that particular thing. Okay, so let me go back here and run the npm save first. Seems like this is still running. It was trying to get the jQuery. Okay, so it's done. Now you see it downloaded jQuery 3.2.1, but you see there was no change in the package JSON, right? But if I see the node folder, I should be having jQuery reference here. So let's go to the node folder again. Yeah, here you can see jQuery, and if you look at the jQuery, it has again dependencies on the other ones, right? And also it has exploit dependencies. Now this is what you don't have to do when you get the latest library. So now what you have to do is you have to go here, and instead of just install jQuery, what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna say save, and in fact I'll go ahead and do exec as well. Now this will add a reference in package.json file. Okay, once that got installed, and probably I'm gonna close this and try to open the solution again using VS Code and see if we see the references. Yep. So here you can see when I say save, it gives me that 3.2.1, but with the caret symbol. But when we are packaging this, what we can do is we can use our different command, which is for again npm. That's why I suggest to use or learn more about npm. So we have something called npm shrink. Okay, shrink wrap. So which will actually generate all the files. We can always remove that, but let's say if I do npm and the next one was shrink wrap. What this basically does is it will generate a new file which will list down all the dependencies that we have used for that particular version. So it's basically skip all this caret symbol as well as the tilde symbol and provide all those references in a separate file. So you can see here it created this npm shrinkwrap.json. So when we run the npm install next time, we can refer this particular thing, and you can see here starting from Microsoft decorators, these are the inbuilt ones, which has again a specific version. And if I look for the jQuery that we have installed, then that will also have a specific version. So there won't be any tilde or any particular symbol that we have specified. So you can see here the jQuery, and it has 3.2.1. Okay. So that's the importance of using this npm shrink wrap, which will generate npm shrinkwrap.json. Okay, so now we have the web part, and we went through the majority of these files. So we discussed about node modules. We discussed about some of the files in config, but I want to talk about a few more files. So you have a deploy azure storage.json. So what you can do is when you are working with SharePoint Framework solutions, you can deploy the build or the bundle.js files to Azure, then you can refer those files. Okay. And this package solution.json will define what are all the solutions that will be packaged when I do npm package solution. So this is the other command that we need to use if I wanted to package the solution, which is actually Gulp. Sorry. So we will say Gulp package solution. which will create a package and which will store in the separate folder called SharePoint, okay, where we get a package, and that is something we are going to upload it to catalog for deploying the solutions. So I'm gonna show about how that will be done. Okay, so you can see here that particular package will go under this solution folder, which will have the extension called SPFx file. Okay, then you have serve.json. So this is where we are going to use the local workbench to test the web parts. Okay, where I'm going to run a command called Gulp serve, okay, which will fire or start the local workbench in this particular port, which is using HTTPS. So in order to trust this, you can say a trust dev certificate, so that it will not ask you every time whether this is a safe URL or not. Okay. So then you have TS link. This is like similar to what you do for JS link. So where you have all the TypeScript stylings that will be maintained here, which will be created or generated automatically with the web part itself. Okay. Then you have write manifest. Apart from deploying the files using Azure, you can also deploy them to specific CDN, even Office 365. Let's say you can create a library within your Office 365 site and put all these JavaScript files there. Okay. And let me talk about a few more files before we do test this particular web part. So you have typings, which is the one actually provide the intelligence for all the scripting that we do, that we code in the TypeScript. And this is the one, you have the tsconfig file, which has all the compiler options. To what language this TypeScript will get compiled to. In this case, it is going to be ES file. Okay. And what is the declaration? And also, if you see the source map, this is important because the type of code that you're going to write in the TypeScript, if you want to debug it in the browser, you need to have source map equal to true. Okay, which will generate a .map extension with the JS file, which will be used for the debugging purpose. Okay, so yeah. What I'm going to do is I'll just go here and start this Gulp serve. So like I mentioned, Gulp is to automate the tasks, right? When I do Gulp serve, it is going to open that local workbench. This will basically use the Node.js and start the web part in the local workbench. So now you can see in the window here, it's actually starting the Gulp, and it is starting different tasks that are required to launch the local workbench. And it's again the streamline engine, so all these tasks will be executed one after the other. So here it says, okay, do you want to launch? I'm gonna say yes. So it took like 49 seconds. Now it opened here. So this is what it does, okay? Because I haven't trusted and it is trying to open the HTTPS. So in this case, I'm gonna say proceed localhost. So which will open the specific port. And this one looks similar to your Office 365 site, right? So here I can go ahead and add the web parts that I have. So these are the two web parts that I have. So I can click on the request here, which will display the default information that we have. Okay. So if I don't want to show that, I can always say a gulp trust dev set. This is the command that we could use. Okay, let's stop this. So if I wanted to stop the gulp, I can say Control C, which will say terminate the batch job. Then I'll say Y. and it will stop the Gulp now. Okay, but when you are running the Gulp and if you make any changes here, it will automatically get reflected in the local workbench. So if I go here, once we run the Gulp serve, we will see two more folders, right? One is lib folder, where I have a few more files for each web part, and I have one more folder which is a distribution folder. Okay, this is the one that will have the final JavaScript files. So though SharePoint Framework, you're going to write the code in the TypeScript, but ultimately there would be files that will be created as bundle.js, and you will have js.map file, which will be basically for debugging the file in the browser. Okay, so this is the final file which you're going to use when you package the solution. But this one is more of intermediate version of it. Okay, where you will see other files that got transpiled, okay, into the JavaScript from the TypeScript. Okay, that's why you see the JavaScript file here, but this is not the bundled version per se. Okay, so all the transpiling will be done here, then it will be moved to the distribution folder here. Okay, so now what I'm going to do here, obviously we need to package this if you want to upload it to the app catalog. That's how we are going to add these things to the solution, right? So to do that, you can always say Gulp package then solution, which will create the package of this web part, and then we will be uploading that to the app catalog. Then we could add these web parts either in classic sites, or you can add it in the modern sites. So it supports both the classic as well as modern team sites. So right now it's creating the package. When it is creating the package, it will also create one more folder called SharePoint here. So you will see that in a moment. Okay, so there you can see you have a folder called SharePoint. Within that I have travel request.sppkg. Okay, so this is the file or package that got created. Thank you for watching this video. For more videos, please visit www.sharepointjourney.school.